Truly African.
Welcome to the show. My name is Amma. Tonight on the show, our conversations are three main topics. One, we'll be looking at the Majority Caucus leadership saga, all of the issues that are happening in Parliament concerning, the leadership of the majority side in Parliament. We'll be looking at this issue of the running mates for both political parties. But we'll also look at, the committee that's been set up by the Bawumia camp, hopefully that's going to work on their manifesto and all things policy, for that camp. I have been joined in studio by two of my favorite colleagues actually. I'll start with Ibrahim Al-Hassan. He's Deputy Editor, EIB Network. Hi.
Hello.
First time on the couch.
Yes. You've graciously been gracing my show. It's time for me to return the favor.
Yeah, today you've returned the favor. and Kojo will tell you, here when you come, you don't leave. Oh,
okay. Good to know.
Good to know, right? Yeah, so, and of course, Mike, I normally say D. Kojo Yankson, I say Mike Kojo Yankson.
Wow.
Please learn from this.
Most definitely.
Escape when you can.
So, Kojo Yankson, broadcast journalist, Joy FM, host Super Morning Show, podcast host extraordinaire. I could go on and on and on, right? It's great to have you here, Kojo.
It's lovely to be here as always.
Always a delight. Yeah. Okay. The issues are three. So we have the Bawumia campaign list. We have the Majority Caucus. We have the choose. I'll reserve the running mates for last. I think those two first issues kind of dovetail into each other. Should we start with the caucus, what's happening in Parliament, or should we start with the committee? Parliament, especially because you are here. You are here, Ibrahim. Ibrahim is, EIB's man in Parliament. So I'll start with you.
Yes.
What is happening in Parliament? What's this majority drama that's happening in Parliament?
It's been an eventful last 3 days, to be honest with you, in Parliament. We've recorded, once again, another first, not just in the annals of the history of Parliament, but in our democracy. This time around, it's not the NDC seeking to make changes to its front bench. No, we dealt with that last year. It wasn't a palatable development politically, but we had a lid on that. Now, some will say that is behind the Minority Caucus. Haruna is not the leader. He's internalized that. James Klucha-Aveji is no longer the deputy minority leader. He's internalized that. He's on his way out. The new leadership on the side of the minority have warmed up, and they are seeing to the day-to-day running of the caucus. Now, 3 days ago, there were stories rife in the media that indeed the NPP as a party had followed suit. To it, they had also made changes to the front bench. And this was immediately after the massive shake-up, ministerial shake-up, massive one. I say massive because this is the first of its kind under the Akufo-Addo administration, be it Akufo-Addo 1 or Akufo-Addo 2. The president publicly said he doesn't believe in reshuffles. So it came to many as a surprise. Or this was done as a result of an external pressure, because the party needed this at this material point in time. So the stories were there. We went to Parliament seeking to get answers. And then indeed we got answers. So First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu came to address us. And he said, and I'm quoting him, that the Majority Caucus had not contemplated making changes to the front bench. And it doesn't intend making changes to the front bench. And that per the new standing orders, there's a definition of majority minority leader. And that definition doesn't even mention political parties. It talks about an MP chosen by members of parliament from the majority side. So this is the definition for majority leader in the new standing orders adopted by Parliament and which is in force. It doesn't mention party. So Joseph Osei relied on this to tell us that now the party cannot on its own decide to effect changes to the front bench of the caucuses. And he was certain in his mind as to what the new standing orders say. Now, then later, we heard that there were attempts indeed to move Chairman Sabonsu from the front bench. The following day, Speaker was invited to speak to this. And how did the invitation come about? Alhassan Sumini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, decided to, he's a journalist, yeah, so he wanted to import happenings outside the Chamber of Parliament onto the floor of Parliament, which he did. That there was confusion at the front side of the majority. And every majority leader is a leader of not just government business, but the leader of Parliament, because you are the majority leader. So if there's uncertainties surrounding your portfolio, it will affect the work of Parliament. So he brought it up. And Speaker said, hold on, let's attend to what's happening now. I'll return to this. That sent a message to me as an observer that, okay, could the Speaker have prepared a ruling, so to speak, on this matter? Because the way it was brought up, and Speaker sounded like he had prepared for it. So after it was all said and done, he came in with his ruling. And the ruling is that the position that had been held by his deputy, Joseph Osei, was in error. And that there's no way a caucus can determine who its leaders should be without the impulse or recourse to the party. And that you are elected as a member of Parliament on the ticket of a political party.
This was Speaker's ruling on the floor of Parliament yesterday.
Yesterday. And he was categorical about this. And he said that after his deputy had engaged the media, the two political parties called him, and I'm talking about MPP, NDC,
both sides,
to find out what's happening. Have you guys done a coup? Because indeed, it looked as such on the back of what happened with the minority leadership shake-up. So was that what informed that particular definition that had been given to minority leader and majority leader that expressly deleted anything that had got to do with the party? So he explained and said that but he was relying on Order 5. And Order 5 simply means that anything that's not captured in the standing orders, the Speaker reserves the right to make a ruling, and that ruling becomes permanent. You have to work with it. And if you disagree, go to court. So Babin said that, I'm quoting him, if you disagree, go to court. Indeed, there was disagreement. His deputy, Joseph Osei, once again rose and challenged the assertion of the Speaker that nowhere in the world do you have a political party determining the leadership of any caucus, be it minority, majority. Not in the UK, not in the US. And that it is left for the party's parliamentary wing. The party's parliamentary wing. In this sense, MPP has the youth wing. The youth wing will organize its own process and elect its leaders. MPP has the women's wing. The women's wing will go through their own process and elect their executives. Why is Parliament different? He queried. And so he disagreed with the Speaker and said he was also preferring an alternative interpretation of the definition of minority or majority leader. So today, of course, we all know what happened yesterday. The President had summoned the majority MPs. Some of them didn't go, including Joseph Osei. And I put this to him moments ago before coming here. He said he had other important things to attend to. So he didn't go. The caucus that led the charge against the attempt to remove Chairman Sir, many of them did also not show up. But there was no meeting. You know what happened? Chairman Sir had then been engaged by the President and a few others, so he had agreed that he was stepping down. So he had given his resignation to the President. So when the President came to meet the MPs, he said, oh, the reason why I called you has been addressed. Your leader has resigned. And so Chairman Sir showed up. After marking them cool were all the Beshukans. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. Pictures were taken for the optics and what have you. And so then the news went out that Chairman Sabonsu had resigned. In the middle of that, there was an announcement that he's the chairman of the Baumia Campaign Manifesto Committee, in essence. And so to the party, that would take away a chunk of his time. So he should leave Parliament and concentrate on that. Today, Joe Wise has spoken again, and he says he's disappointed. His disappointment is in Osei Mensah Bonsu's, if you will, his rush in resigning, and that they were ready to fight for him, and they would have fought for him. They would have insisted that the party had no right in pushing him out. But unfortunately, he resigned. They are disappointed, but they will ensure that the right thing is done relative to choosing his successor. And the names that are there, no, disregard them. The caucus will meet, and if they settle on who the deputy leader should be, who the leader should be, who the majority chief whip should be, and all the others. You know, Lydia, Sarah Manasseh has equally left because he's been elevated to a minister. They are yet to be vetted, but of course, she'll have to leave. Originally, the message we got was that it was going to be Arnold Domprey being the majority leader to replace Chairman Sabonsu. We are rightly informed that he has said no. Yes, that he has said no. And mind you, he himself publicly had mentioned after his victory as the candidate for the party for Nsawam Adwejiri that he was going to be elevated. And so then people got to understand that to mean that he will be made the majority leader. I'm sure he has read the room, and he's realized that no, it might have been a poisoned chalice, so he says no.
Interesting. So interesting. I thought that there's a hierarchy. So I thought that once this one goes, it's like chess, isn't it? You just move up, and that's what I thought. I'm sorry, Kojo. He's still just giving us facts. We haven't gotten to your opinion of what's, and I'm interested in your opinion.
Yes, I think it's needless. 10 months to an election. The man is bowing out. He's not returning to Parliament again.
At all.
He's been in leadership position collectively for close to 16 years. He did 8 years as minority leader. He's done 7 years as majority leader. At the point, he was even a deputy whip.
True.
He's left with just 10 months to bow out. At least let him bow out with some grace.
Gracefully.
Unless there's a bigger grace, which I'm sure Kojo will get to. Unless there's a bigger grace that we are all not privy to.
Can't the bigger grace wait for 10 months?
If the bigger grace comes, automatically he will have had to leave in the first place as a majority leader. He cannot get that bigger grace and still continue to occupy that seat as majority leader. So maybe, you see, so maybe that will come. And if that comes, then we can all say that, that's why
this makes sense.
Things happened the way they happened. Because it equally doesn't do good to the party's unity in Parliament, and the fact that who succeeds him and the meanings that will be read into who succeeds him, and as whether the person played a role in his housing or not. These are all the nuances that must be factored into consideration. The Asante caucus, they were livid, and they didn't hide it. Livid. And the argument is that Che has been there. He will no longer be there for the 9th Parliament, be it with a minority or majority. So why don't we start implementing our caucus existence in the absence of Che? So what MPP is doing is to prepare its side for the Parliament as we know it without Che. And we told that's what's happening. So how will the party be able to hold its own in Parliament without Che Mensah? And that's what
interesting times ahead. Interesting times ahead. I mean, interesting times ahead. And with all of this drama unfold, you'd have to keep coming back. You'd have to keep, because now you're the count's eyes and ears also.
Don't worry at all.
I'm trying to get you into trouble. I was telling you earlier, Kojo, before we came on, you know, on that, I mean, the kind of politics that's going on now, I can't wrap my head around, right? The nuances are so much. It's a lot of intrigue. Like, people are weaving, and sometimes you can't even see the head or tail of what's happening. Like, I'm trying to make sense of all of this, and there are so many legs to this table. So many legs to this table. What are you making of all this?
I know you love politics. Your favorite year is election year.
Oh, yes.
There's so much to do. There's
Yes.
so much to think about. There's so much to analyze. And this is your strength. This is what you like to do. But I said this last week. Smart people think everybody is smart. They are not. This is not some multi-layered chess game. This is chaos. Chaos. When we have a president who is an agent of discord, this is what you get. Let me tell you this. And I mean, I was equally critical when the NDC did the same thing. It was another needless change. Utterly needless. I mean, do you remember when the NDC, the minority in parliament, were led by Haruna, when Muntaka was chief whip? Do you remember just how aggressive those guys were? Do you remember? Now you have Kasela Toforson and those other gentlemen. What are they doing there? What are they doing in parliament? Reactionary people who are sitting back hoping that the media will do their job for them, putting up absolutely nothing that resembles a fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean physical brawl. I mean going toe to toe against the majority. When your numbers are so close, you should be giving them hell, especially on the things you disagree on. I mean, there are things you will agree on, naturally. Actually, Parliament, the two sides tend to agree on more than they disagree on. We only get to hear of the things they disagree on. But on those things, it should be high noon. It should be the Wild West. If you really want to demonstrate that you are representing the minority. But since they put Haruna and Muntaka and that cohort, since they put them on the back burner, look at the leadership we've had in parliament, and the majority is doing the same thing. They're fixing what is not broken. To what end? I mean, there is no advantage, none. Strategically, in terms of optics, there's no advantage to changing Oseche Mensah Bonsu at this time. You know, you talked about the possibility of higher grace or whatever. Yes, Oseche Mensah Bonsu is one of those being considered for running mate. And the vice president has a tough decision to make. His own preference is coming under some criticism from the party. So he's seeking to appease everyone and still ensure that he puts someone on the ticket who will bring in votes. Okay, so these names are still being juggled. Oseche Mensah Bonsu is still being considered alongside others. Okay, so yeah, that is in the works. But why must he be removed from leadership in parliament in order for that to happen? How does that give him any kind of advantage? How? And by the way, the meeting that resulted in his resignation wasn't chaired by the vice president, the candidate. It was the president, the lame duck. Do you get why I'm saying that he can be an agent of discord? He's not helping anybody. Even he himself. What does he benefit from this? Unless maybe they have some quarrel. And this is his last minute, vengeance move. Other than that, there's no benefit to anybody. President Akufo-Addo said to my colleague Blessed Soga in Addis Ababa that the reshuffle was done for the people of Ghana. I think he thinks the people of Ghana are just his cousins. I think he genuinely believes that those are the people of Ghana. The rest of us, we are just extras walking around in the background to make the picture look
just
nice.
said extras.
Maybe that's how he sees Ghana. Because who else benefits from that reshuffle? Apart from those who have campaigns ahead of them and have been put in these positions where they are required to work for the people of Ghana, but can't because they will be distracted by the campaign they have ahead of them. So why have they been put there? For me Ghanaian, how am I going to benefit from these people that you are bringing on board? How? Now, I'll tell you my big disappointment. Somebody I like so much, have so much respect for, is the speaker, Alban Bagbin. I think he's been one of our best speakers. He has faced controversial decisions head on with certainty in his rulings. That is commendable. I think he's got this one wrong. He's got it wrong and has followed in the footsteps of others who got it wrong before him. If you recall, the Right Honorable Reverend Professor Michael Quay made a ruling that basically indicated that as a member of parliament, your allegiance is to your party, not your constituents. That is a spit in the face of democracy. But he made that ruling because at the time it seemed like the most convenient interpretation of their standing orders and the constitution. That seemed the most convenient because it meant that political parties can still exert control over parliament. Now, if the political party in power can exert control over parliament, is parliament effective? And Alban Bagbin has further weakened parliament by saying that in this instance, the political party can decide leadership of the majority or the minority, because I suppose this should apply in both cases. Why would you do that? Why do we want more power given to political parties? Our entire problem as a nation is from political parties. And you as a speaker whose allegiance is to the minority, you are in a unique position to make rulings that actually do not benefit the majority. And you've decided to toe the same line of making the party the puppet master behind parliament. Why? Who benefits from that? Who benefits from if the political party is now established as the authority that can determine who leads in parliament? That means that parliament can never ever, and you see, this means that what we saw in the revolt against Ken Ofori-Atta may never happen again.
Oh, sure.
It may never happen again.
Sure.
And Alban Bagbin's ruling is what is going to ensure that we never see such a spark of democratic brilliance in our country again. This is chaos, Ama, not strategy. This is chaos. There's nothing to be praised here. There's no intricate web being woven that we as mere mortals cannot see.
Unable to
They
decipher.
are a bunch of confused people who are bringing chaos into something that was already not perfect. So I mean, where do we go next?
Where do we go next? That's what I'm interested in, and I need us to find our way clear through all of this. What does the standing order have to say about this? Surely there has to be something in there, you know.
Most definitely.
Yes, please take us there.
And that's quite profound from you.
Right.
So it talks about definition of majority leader,
Right.
and same applies for minority leader. And it says, majority leader means a member of parliament designated by the majority caucus as their leader in the house. It doesn't mention political party. It says a member of parliament designated by the majority caucus as their leader in the house. So the speaker then expanded this and said definitely the party ought to lead that charge.
Why?
In getting a leader. His explanation.
Why?
So for instance, first day in parliament, like what happened on January 7, 2021,
Right.
which got Alban Bagbin elected as speaker, where fresh MPs together with continuing MPs show up. Bagbin argues that how will the fresh MPs, for instance, be able to identify a competent individual from the pack to settle on and name the person their leader. And so, if that will be challenging, that we are all freshers, there are others who are continuing, it will be difficult, in his opinion, for the members of parliament belonging to a particular caucus to decide that on their own, they are going to be able to choose one person to lead them who is competent. And that's where the party must come in.
And how would the party know who is competent in parliament?
That they filed their nominations to contest on the ticket of the party. The party will know their strengths and their weaknesses. The party will know...
Based on their nomination?
Yeah, based on, of course, and they are vetted as well. And the party will definitely have everybody's profile.
Where are the constituents in all this?
Good question.
Who is representing constituents? The whole point of parliament is that each constituency is choosing one person to represent them.
Yeah.
But speakers, subsequent speakers in parliament have made it so that MPs don't represent the constituents who voted for them.
No.
They represent their party.
Yeah.
And they have institutionalized that hierarchy. Party first. And we still call it democracy.
Yes. And I agree that the party can still be involved, but to relegate the caucus to the background, in spite of what the standing order says, that's where my problem is. So indeed, the party can be involved, the party should be involved, but the party must not lead that. That's great. So for instance,
to what extent?
The party wants to remove Osei Mensah-Bonsu as majority leader. There must be that buy-in from the caucus. Because whoever is coming to replace Osei Mensah-Bonsu will be leading this same team.
Right.
And if it's without the buy-in and the blessing or the consent of the caucus, then there's anarchy, there's chaos. And unfortunately, the MPP has just walked into the same landmine that the NDC exited from. In fact, I insisted that I think the NDC's letter addressed to the speaker that became public, compelling the chairman of the party to be granting media interviews, I'm talking about Johnson Asiedu Nketia, was leaked. Just that the party didn't want to concede that the letter was leaked. Because the individuals had not been consulted, the caucus had not been consulted, and you were dispatching a letter to the speaker. And so what? You are appointing new people to just go to the office, knock and say, Haruna, get out. James Kurichaveji, get out. How is that practicable? Yes, so that landmine, that by the way, many political analysts think has not been cured, and that is like a cow dung. The surface looks very dry, but beneath, very wet. Once you step on it, that is there hanging, and you're repeating the same thing. You might, and for the optics, you've seen the pictures. It's all good. The incoming, embracing, and shaking hands with the outgoing, and what have you. But when the dust settles, and you get to the nitty-gritties, you realize that the caucus will be in disarray. Because already 28 of them have lost their seats.
Yes.
They have an axe to grind with the system. Over 90 of them were rebelling against this same party, demanding the head of Ken Ofori-Atta. That was not heeded to. Now that the president has asked Ken Ofori-Atta to step aside, many of them are saying too little, too late.
Too late.
You're doing all this. And like fuel somewhere, just spark a match and drop it in there. It will definitely have impact on the cohesion. Joseph Osei Owusu, at the point he was in a race to be a speaker, just that the party felt Professor Makokwe should still go for another term, and subsequently he lost. Look at what Joseph Osei Owusu did for the party, from e-levy to the budget and what have you. And so he's no mean a person that you can just brush aside. And as we speak now, he's the only one holding the speakership for the majority caucus. Whatever you might say about Alban Bagbin, he's from a political party, and that party is NDC. When it matters most, that color will show. Even though, of course, as an observer, you will say that when the national interest is paramount, he will uphold it. But the bottom line is that he's a politician. He's still the longest serving member of parliament we've ever had. So let's see how the party addresses it. That will be done tomorrow. Tomorrow there's a meeting that's scheduled to also involve the National Council of Elders to seek for Chief Minister's replacement and probably mend the wounds and hope that that is resolved. But it's instructive what Kojo said. That is the president himself who chairs set meetings. And I'm sure it's because he's insisted that he's not a lame duck president. And I was there at the program when he replied, Alban Bagbin, in no uncertain terms, that until he leaves power, come January 7, 2025, he's still a president.
He is the
president. He
president.
will take the decisions that he ought to take, and he will not be a lame duck president. So I'm sure he's just manifesting that.
I mean, I want us to think through this. You know, I want us to think through this. Clearly, we have a problem. We have Parliament that has a standing order that says clearly that, you know, the leader should be designated, by the side.
Exactly.
The side has the power to designate its own leaders. This is in black and white. This is what the standing order of the Constitution says. Simple. Yeah. Yet we have speakers of Parliament, and we will not leave this to, only the Honorable, Alban Bagbin and Amatewi. We'll extend it to his predecessor, who both insist that no, the political parties have a say. I have said on this show before, a long time ago, another issue came out, and I was suggesting that is it possible to ever look for a Speaker of Parliament outside of Parliament? I understand about standing orders.
Yeah, that can be done.
An MP. Yeah. Isn't it time we had that conversation? Because whether we like it or not, and you're right, whether the person is from NDC or NPP, the person is from somewhere.
Exactly.
And the person tends to, at least both of them have shown us, that they tend to feel a stronger allegiance to their political party than to us. Yeah. So isn't it time we had that conversation about having Speakers of Parliament outside of the party structure, perhaps outside of Parliament? Is that feasible? Is that a possibility?
I mean, I said once, probably on my show, I don't remember where I say things now.
Probably here.
Yeah.
Probably here.
I said once that when Bagbin announced, there are some new standing orders that they started this new session with. And I remember listening to them. They are going to sing national anthem or whatever. Say the national pledge. Yeah. They are going to do roll call.
Roll call, yes.
I was thinking, all well and good. But if you really want to advance democracy, as Parliament should, maybe what you should do is that you should rather make two things. One, in certain levels of decision making, it should be secret ballot. Yeah. That should become more of an institutionalized thing. So that people can vote their conscience without worrying about somebody whipping them into line. So divorce parliamentary authority from party authority. That's what I said. I said that would have been a nice standing order to introduce. Or if you can't do that, then at the very least, start recording people's voting record. I want to be able to know if I take abortion. I want to be able to know how my MP voted on abortion, whether it reflects me or not, so that when he comes back for my vote, I know what to tell him.
Exactly.
These things help democracy. These are the standing orders I want to see. Not Echan Akosia president say Sakatu Kofi Jr. What is that? What is that? Meanwhile, you are going to let people stand up and recite the national pledge as if that will somehow improve the quality of discourse in Parliament. As if that will somehow make a parliamentarian do more to represent his constituents. It won't. But now I'm not surprised, because the Speaker doesn't think that the people assembled in front of him should be representing their constituents. He thinks they should be representing their parties. And he's proved it.
That's a problem. I want us to go on to our next issue. Do you guys feel that we've exhausted, all of these issues?
Yeah, but on the national pledge thing, they argue that it will make them more patriotic. It will constantly be reminding them about what they ought to do as members of Parliament every day when they show
the ones who can't speak English. Will the national pledge make them more patriotic?
Now they will be allowed to speak in the local
The
dialect.
pledge is not in the local dialect.
In Parliament, the local dialect will be admitted on the floor of Parliament, but of course with interpretation.
Imagine the national pledge will make Adwoa Safo more patriotic and want to actually come and sit in the chair and represent her people. No.
The party she belongs to is
In
a
any
new
case,
patriotic party.
that explains something.
Yeah.
Define patriotic.
Yeah.
Is it representing your party? Is that
All your
patriotism?
people. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that patriotism? Representing one party or representing all the people in your constituency? Those who belong to your party, those who don't belong to your party, those who belong to no party.
Coach, on a lighter note, I mean, there's something to be said about this. Since you brought up Adwoa Safo, perhaps this is what prompted her to go and look at the wordings of and came to a conclusion that it should have been motherland and
Motherland
not
as well
fatherland.
as
It is motherland.
I'm saying
She was saying that if we talk about the
Forefathers.
blood and toil of our fathers,
Forefathers.
we should also mention the blood and toil of our mothers.
Yeah.
I'm saying that perhaps it's this new standing order
Yeah.
that prompted her to go and have a better look
It is.
at when
That's
she
what
came to the
that's what she was
conclusion
commenting
that
on.
That's
it
true.
should have been more gender
That's what she was commenting
At least
on.
you have
it is actually.
yes,
Oh, great.
you have motherland, and that's enough. That's the ladies
I
have
don't even want to get into that. Please spare me that conversation. I really would not, But I want us to go to our next issue.
Yes,
Before we do, I wanted one of these videos to play. One of the videos surrounding this President's brouhaha that even after this discussion, I still do not understand. Kojo says I'm thinking too deeply. I shouldn't, worry myself. It's just chaos,
That's true.
which is sad.
Very,
One would
very.
have thought that we wouldn't play or toy with an institution like Parliament.
We've gotten to a stage where politicians are not supposed to be understood.
Wow.
Yeah, but the irony is that the voters are expected to make choices. They are expected to make decisions based on whatever these politicians feed them with. But unfortunately, in our current dispensation, you hardly can understand our politicians because some of their actions are illogical.
You're right. We shouldn't play or toy with Parliament. But they are playing and toying with themselves. And if we say it, we are in contempt. They are weakening themselves. They are diminishing their own power. But if I say it, I'm in contempt. You yourself, you don't take yourself seriously. But you insist that I should. Otherwise, I'm in contempt. What's that? Respect yourself, and maybe we'll follow.
Let's watch this video. Let's quickly watch this video. When we come back, we move straight to, Bawumia's committee. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we invited you here this morning because of some publications that have gone haywire in respect of the leadership of the Majority Caucus. We are here to inform you, and through you to the world, that the publication that are going around is not true, it's false, that the caucus, the Majority Caucus, has not made any changes in its leadership. The Majority Caucus has not contemplated making any changes to its leadership, and that we tell the whole world, Ghana, to ignore any such publications. And I want to assure you that we have confidence in the leadership as they are, and the status quo shall remain. We are aware that upon the nomination of one of the deputy whips as a minister, a replacement will be made. That replacement will be made by the caucus when we have had the opportunity and the time to consider the appropriate replacement. This is all the information we want to share with you, and to, through you, tell the world that the leadership of the Majority Caucus has not changed. We have not contemplated any change, and we do have no intention to effect any changes in the leadership of the Majority Caucus. Which constitution?
The MPP's constitution.
That regulates MPP. The Parliament of Ghana has adopted standing orders which places the selection and change or otherwise of leadership in the hands of the caucus and not anybody outside Parliament.
Why do we not see the current leadership of the majority doing the press conference as it is now? But it's you.
They are busy in the chamber, and it's about them. It is about them. The rest of us must stand up for them. They have led us effectively and efficiently, and the rest of us must stand up for them. And indeed, it doesn't need the leaders to say that we have not taken a decision. It is we, the members, the caucus. We have not taken any such decision. We are not contemplating any such decision.
Mr. Speaker, is there an external?
I don't know about any time management. Anybody can resign anytime.
What does it mean for the forward march of the caucus? Because as we engage you mentioned that the caucus had not contemplated. Now the individual in question has decided to call it quit.
Yes. What it means is that the caucus will refocus and decide where to go.
Were you at the meeting yesterday at the behest of the president?
No,
Why not?
because I was busy on something else.
Do you believe the majority leader has been forced out by a scheme orchestrated by certain elements within your ranks?
I don't have any such information. I have no basis for coming to that conclusion.
Are you personally disappointed?
I am personally disappointed that Che decided to stand down. He has been a fantastic leader, an extremely hard-working person, and I would have wished that he stayed on to the end. But as to what got to him, I'm sure we better let him explain.
What will happen moving forward? Today he was in the chamber. Initially he didn't sit on his chair. It means the changes have taken effect.
Well, once he stood down, it means he's no longer the majority leader. But as to whether any change has happened or not, I don't have any information. I'm not aware that any person has been either nominated or discussed or chosen by the side.
There's a name out there, and that's Alexander Kwame Afenimaki, the first name that got us into this story in the first place. That name is still there. How's it come?
Well, I saw that name before the weekend came. At that time, Che was still the majority leader, so we'll wait and see. I'm sure moving forward, the caucus will discuss all the ramifications of the effects of our leader resigning and the process of selecting or electing a new one. We will discuss all that, and if there are any implications that would have negative impact on our caucus, we may decide, we may plan a route that will keep us together.
Chairman.
Welcome back. This is still The Couch. My name is Amma Plant. I'm here with Ibrahim Al-Hassan, Deputy Editor, EIB Network, NIB Network, right? Same thing. EIB Network. Okay. Kojo Yankson, broadcast journalist, Joy FM. So we have just had the full list, of Dr. Bawumia's manifesto committee for the 2024 general elections. If you permit me, or you do that, I want us to go over the names.
No problem. I will do you the honor. So obviously, the man we just finished talking about, Osechi Mensah Bonsu, Member of Parliament for Swami, now is leading the park as chairman for the committee. Kojo Ponkrumah, the immediate past information minister, who is now minister for Works and Housing, as the vice chairman of the manifesto committee. Everyone Hughes, who works with the vice president, is also a secretary to the committee. And then the coordinators, we have Professor Kwekwa Piedu, he's a coordinator. Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah, who is the director of research at the presidency, the gentleman who was co-opted from the political science department of the University of Ghana to the presidency. He's also a coordinator here. And then we have subcommittees. One interesting name here is Dr. Esibebua, Dr. Mark Esibebua, former member of parliament for New Dublin South, and he was also the chairman for the finance committee, but then he lost the party's primaries too. Of course, the Free Zones Board boss then. Then we talk about Tony Otinjesi, and of course he's a technocrat. Then Kwadwo Safoa-Poku. Kwadwo Safoa-Poku actually contested. Kwadwo Poku, he contested with the vice president to pick the slot for the flag bearership of the NPP, but of course he couldn't make the cut, so he ended up supporting the vice president's bid. And then we have William Opon Bio for agriculture, Dr. Augustine Blay, who is also from the vice president's office. He's in charge of communication and digitalization. Dr. Gideon Boakun, also from the vice president's office, lands, minerals and natural resources. And Dr. Emmanuel Mafo, science, technology, innovation and environment. He's a member of parliament for Forikrum. He's not seeking for a re-election to return to parliament. He's the current chairman for the Committee on Environment, Science and Innovation. Masoro Pukwatiman, legal and governance. Masoro Pukwatiman, I'm sure, is a name that rings bell for viewers. He was in charge of the Ghana Law School. Due to one or two happenings, he was ousted. He was removed. Then replaced with Lawyer Opon now.
Right.
And then we have Justina Marigold, local government. She's the Central Regional Minister. Yes. And then we have Engineer Kwame Japon, housing and infrastructure.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Hassan Tampuli, transport. Edward Asumenin, security.
Edward Asumenin is the current National Security Coordinator.
Yes.
Right.
He's Oxford trained, and he's risen quite fast through the national security apparatus to become coordinator.
Yeah.
He's been that for the past few years,
Yes,
I believe, in this latest.
And at the point he was at the Damkwa Institute.
That's correct.
Yeah.
In fact, he's even interned at Multimedia before.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Great guy.
Yes. So we have Michael Quay Jr.
Interesting.
He's in charge of foreign affairs because I'm sure he was Ghana's High Commissioner to India.
India.
Yes, taking after the father. Samuel Jan, he's in charge of youth.
Interesting.
Yeah, former captain of the Black Stars. I'm not sure this comes to many as a surprise. He's not hiding his political colors. At a point, his name was up there to wrestle the Botiano English amount from seat from Sylvester.
Still comes as a surprise to me, and I'll tell you why when we get into the conversation. It still comes as a surprise to me.
No problem. And then you have Juliet Asante, tourism, culture, and creative art.
The actress.
Yes, the actress. She's in charge of the sector now under this government, so why not? And Kofi Jamesi, Chieftaincy, religious affairs, and civil
You skipped gender.
Okay, so gender will be Amasewa.
Is that Amasewa Nikwe Tete? Would that be? Because Amasewa is such an ambiguous. You know,
Yes.
And I'm so curious. If it's Amasewa Nikwe Tete, I would be very excited.
Okay, then I'm sure that if she's
is.
in the sector already, as her name has rang a bell now, then I'm sure she might be the one. Otherwise, I can't think about Amasewa as a member of parliament. I can't.
No, she's not. I mean, the person that I'm thinking about is our present chair for rep for UN.
Okay.
Locally, UNESCO.
Okay.
That's the Amasewa that I know. And I know that she had wanted to go for one of these seats. She didn't get it from the primaries.
Then it's her, obviously, because she's a member of the party, so she qualifies to serve on this committee. I'm sure. But we'll call on them to provide
give us the full name.
Particulars.
Absolutely.
The full name, yes. Kofi Jamesi, Chieftaincy, I'm sure he's gone to where he belongs. He was once a minister for the same sector. Dr. Ayuwe Health, he's the current chairman for the Health Committee of Parliament. And he serves as Baumia's campaign coordinator for the Ashanti region. Yes. And Dr. Prince Hamid Ama Education, yes, at a point he was the boss of NACA. He's currently a member of parliament for Kwesi Mintim. Yes. And so that's it. So that's the end of the list.
When I googled Amasewa, somebody called Sewa Dufie Priscilla came up. It is definitely not her.
It's definitely
not her.
That's like one of very few high points for me in this list. Don't do this to me.
No, what I'm saying is
the one that
the person who came up.
Yeah.
When
It's
I
not
Googled
her.
Ama
Okay,
Sewa,
not that she's not
was
this
Sewa,
person.
somebody
Okay.
called Sewa Dufie Priscilla.
right.
And I can guarantee you that she is not the one
On this list.
there. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay. I'll take your word for it.
I didn't need to do any further research.
Right.
All right.
So, like I'm saying, that would be a highlight for me.
Yeah.
Because I've had opportunity to work with her before. You know, I think that should be great for any portfolio. You know, she's an all-round amazing woman. So I think that and I genuinely think that this administration has not been fair to the gender ministry,
Okay.
not her. We've had too long a period when we didn't have a gender minister.
Yes.
And it felt as if the administration did not take the ministry seriously enough.
Yeah.
You know,
Replacement.
because I felt as if for any other ministry, they would have quickly found somebody and somebody good, you know, to go there. Even the fact that there were rumors that when Adja was sent there, she said it was kind of a demotion.
Yeah.
Even that didn't sit well with me because it's a very serious ministry.
It's supposed
we
to
are more than 50% of this population. That's not a small ministry.
That's
So if you are, and it's not just about gender, it's just about children and you know
social
minorities and
protection,
it's a serious ministry.
You must be happy now. You have a young woman going there. That's one new man, no?
I am. It's just that I don't know her well enough.
Yeah. She's
You
not
know,
been around for quite some
I'm
time.
hoping to know her better. I'm hoping for her to show us something.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if 10 months is enough for her to show us anything. But I'm
Question on my
hopeful.
mind too.
I'm hopeful. So that would have been a highlight for me. I find it very interesting, Kobne Japan, housing and infrastructure. It's a little interesting for
He's
me.
an engineer.
He's an engineer,
Yeah,
even
back
though his political life hasn't been about
Yes.
that.
True.
Pardon?
His political life hasn't been about
Yeah.
that. So I find it a bit
one of the
interesting.
things that seem to go through this list
Right.
is the fact that the vice president seems interested in people who can help form policy, not people who can govern or people who can run the sector. He's not picking ministers. He's picking technocrats to
Policy
write
developers.
policy. And if that is it, then some of these choices are very appropriate. Tony Otinjesi for trade. I mean, who better, right?
Yeah.
So if that's what he's thinking,
Right.
then some of the choices then start to make a little more sense.
Right.
Even Asamoah, right? Because Asamoah is somebody who, even after he stopped playing football, has kept his finger in sports generally. Tennis, in fact, he has sponsored several tennis tournaments for young people across the country, right? He's also involved in some of these organizations that have been setting up these astroturfs and trying to get young people to get it. So there are things he's been doing in his private life that are transferable if you need him to be sitting at a table helping to write policy on where sports should go. There are some transferable skills from what he's been doing since he left the pitch, which would apply. So even though his name seemed like a surprise, if you remind yourself that these are people who are being picked to help form policy, right? The vice president has a vision, a general vision of what he thinks his presidency should focus on. Now he's bringing people who can write the practical detail of what will achieve that vision. In that cast, I think Asamoah is not as surprising a choice.
That is exactly why Asamoah is surprising for me, right?
Yeah.
It's not surprising for me that his politics is this way. We know that. That wasn't surprising for me because I already know. He's shown, he hasn't hidden, you know, his politics from anybody. So that wasn't surprising. Oh, he's NPP, okay, we know that already, right? That wasn't surprising. What was surprising for me is exactly what you say. The fact that these are people that are meant to be working on a manifesto committee.
Yeah.
It's not about can somebody play sports. It's about can somebody direct policy where sports is concerned. And that's where it's surprising for me
Well, I mean, I don't know if you
that Asamoah made this list.
I don't know if you were listening at all when I was talking about what he's done since he stopped playing sports. So, I mean, he stopped playing sports some time ago. But since then, he's done a number of things in developing sports in communities for young people. And it's not about playing it. It's about providing them with facilities, about giving them opportunities to go and play after school without losing out on their studies and all of that, about trying to integrate sports into schools in local communities. These are things he's been doing on his own. Okay, so that's what I'm saying would be a strength for him in such a position.
But here's my question. Are we saying that he's the best for this? Is that what we are saying? We are saying that there are no, we don't have people in terms of policy direction for sports in this country that we looked around, even within the fold of the NPP. Go to the sports, youth and sports ministry. Look at all the directors we have, all the people that have worked there for years and years and years. We are saying that we looked from the north to the south in all of Ghana, and we decided that Asamoah Gyan is the best person to formulate policy. And by we, I mean the Bawumia camp. Clearly.
So we didn't do anything. Right? So you have to ask yourself, what process did they use in selecting their people? Right? Now, you go with what you know. Right? So you sit around with your team and you're like, okay, who do you think can help us here? Then names will come up. This guy, this guy, this guy. Everybody will come and make a case for their name, the name that they brought. The vice president himself might remember some conversation he's had with this person where he said something that sounded smart to him. Then you say, okay, yeah, I like this guy. So they are making these decisions based on their knowledge of the people, not your knowledge of the people.
Okay. But I'm certainly free to express my opinion based on my knowledge of the people.
Most definitely. So for instance, Asamoah Gyan
Limited as it can be.
Limited as DS is
yes. Asamoah Gyan, of course, he will serve as a coordinator.
Right.
I would even call him a consultant.
Right.
And let's not discard the fact that the optics will equally be considered. So when the list came out, it wasn't Osei Mensah's face that became the poster boy for the list. It was Asamoah Gyan, and that generated conversation. To the politician, that could be a box ticked. So for instance, if it's about brain work, and I put Asamoah Gyan here and I put, say, Kwabena Yeboah there, I'll go for Kwabena Yeboah. Because he will have a better bird's eye view policy, what works, what doesn't work, what should we do here, what should we do there, by way of experience. Asamoah Gyan's experience is in playing, and playing under different coaches, nothing more, nothing less. So, in terms of, for instance, put Asamoah Gyan against Tony Otinjesi, who is an accomplished businessman, who knows how to lose money in a bad venture, and equally knows how to make money after having lost money. Practical experience. Asamoah Gyan, for instance, is going to tell us about policy for athletics. He doesn't know jack about that. What he knows is football. And we know him
that
for
he
that.
knows.
Yes.
That he knows.
That he knows. No two ways about that. That he knows. But of course, like I said, after that box is ticked, he is going to coordinate others. So what they will do to help him will be to assemble the people that we talk about with the technical know-how to help him. He's a financier of the party. This is the party's own way of letting the whole world know that he's one of us, one. We've given him an assignment. Let him use his reach, his fame, his popularity to get us what we need to get this manifesto developed relative to sports. But of course, we all know he's limited. His limitation is in football, and that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Aside that, if you look at the list, yes, Energy Kojopoku, he's a CEO for Gasol. He's played in that field for as long as we can all remember. Now, Kwabena Yeboah is an engineer, and he's even in the leadership of Ghana Institute of Engineers. So he will definitely bring that to bear as well. Kojo Nkrumah, yes, now
interesting.
Yeah,
I found that really interesting.
Very interesting.
Really
but
interesting.
He has a new portfolio now,
right?
And so serving as a vice president, a vice chair for the committee, he will definitely be able to support Osei Mensah. Mind you, they are all in parliament. And that's where the argument that Mensah will have his hands full, and that's how come he's had to be booted out from parliament, doesn't cut for me. Kojo Nkrumah is not just an MP, he's equally a minister. He has not resigned as a minister, but he's the vice chair for this committee. So those of you who are flying this explanation around that, yeah, as a chairman of the manifesto committee, you can have your hands full. I actually put that question to Joseph Osei. Said how? As chairman of the manifesto committee, you have technocrats writing virtually everything. You just amalgamate everything, put everything together. After it's typed, everything you read. If there's proofreading, they are proofreading to help you. After which the presidential candidate signs off the booklet and it becomes a manifesto. Besides, the vice president has virtually spoken to us about the entirety of the manifesto. It's just the nitty-gritties that they will have to formulate in a 70-point version that he told us. Everything should be in there. Yes, so I think this is my bad team. Definitely.
Overall,
yes, the work.
No, you don't think it's a bad team?
Yes, the work of this team will be more difficult than the team that the NDC, for instance, will put together. Well, NDC will just have to dust their 2020 manifesto, which they have done already. 24-hour economy. I'm surprised there's now that many people are paying attention. It was in the 2020 manifesto.
Right.
The big push. It was there. So I'm sure all they need to do is just dust it, delete the date, make some changes and bring it back. This committee will have much more work to do because this is Bawumia's vision. This is not Akufo-Addo's vision.
Let me read something here. It says the committee shall be responsible for undertaking a holistic review of the party's 2016 and 2020 manifestos and engaging all relevant stakeholders to come up with a pragmatic 2024 manifesto. The most interesting thing for me here says the manifesto committee is further charged to discharge their mandate efficiently and professionally to produce a comprehensive manifesto document that can stand the test of time to address the legitimate concerns and socio-economic challenges of Ghanaians. I find it interesting. Maybe, like Kojo says, I tend to overthink.
No, we understand you. But
the fact that they are reviewing the old one, comprehensively, again, me overthinking. And all of this, and saying that they want a manifesto that can stand the test of time. Are they suggesting therefore that the old manifesto did not stand the test? Anyway, I overthink. Ignore me.
Yeah, I mean, this is political communication.
Yeah.
They have to make some reference to the previous manifestos,
right?
Just so that it doesn't seem as if they are trying to say that previous manifestos were rubbish, and so they are doing a new one.
Right.
I mean, it's just politics.
So actually, that's what they are saying.
They have to say it that way, just so that it looks like there is continuity. It's still the same party. We are just refreshing our ideas, reviewing our ideas. But in all truth, I suspect that Dr. Bawumia wants a manifesto that reflects his vision. The one that he was selling to us reflected Akufo-Addo's vision. I'm sure he wants now to have one that reflects his vision. So there will be some major departures. But this is political communication. Look, Mina, the way Ghana handles the concept of manifesto is wrong for me. In the UK, the Labour Party has a manifesto. It has been their manifesto for decades. Conservatives have a manifesto. Go to the US, it's the same thing. They might not call it manifesto, but it's the same thing. They have policy directions that have been there. That is what they believe in. This is their ideology. A manifesto is actually an ideology. It's not so much about policies. It's about ideology. So it is in a manifesto that you should see what people think, what these two parties believe about ownership. Okay, what they believe when it comes to labor. The big ideas, whether they are capitalist or socialist, it's the manifesto that should tell you that. It's not supposed to be a policy document. Not really, not by definition. Policy is formed by those you appoint to run sectors. They will say, I think we should do it this way. And the president will look at it. If it matches his vision, he says, go ahead. That's where policy comes in. But we are a bread and butter society. Our problems are very
Survival.
palpable.
We are still at survival.
Yeah.
So manifesto has divorced itself from ideology, and it's just about how I'm
Bread
going
and
to make
butter.
your life better.
Yeah.
That's what it's become. So we are handling the whole thing wrong, but well, in the continued spirit of getting it wrong, they seem to be following they're doing it by numbers, right? They pick people they believe can contribute to those, spaces. You can debate, whether there are better options and all of that. We can all debate that. I mean, I personally, I find it. I mean, I'm not surprised Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah is on the team. I am surprised that he's the vice chair. I think that's quite a position of responsibility. And, well, I mean, I think we all have our views. But my personal view would have been that the chair position would have gone to somebody who has a lot of election experience, like the McMenu level, type people, so that Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah might be useful in maybe a communications committee or, because
But you realize that he's carefully being steered away from that.
Yeah, Miracles
Do
is
you
taking
realize
over.
that he's carefully being steered away from, communication?
Yes.
So,
That's
yeah.
true.
It
But
seems
it's
there's
interesting for me, I'm sorry, Skachukojo, it's interesting for me, with the reshuffle list that came out, clearly he had been, steered away from communication, but he had been steered into a sector that I didn't expect. It was a little strange for me.
works and housing.
Yes, I didn't expect him there. Somewhere else, I thought, not there. Then this comes, and then it seems like an elevation. So I feel like there's some roller coaster thing going on with Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah within the NPP that I still can't quite get.
If you bear in mind, the president has proved to us that he did the reshuffle for the benefit of the ministers, the appointees. If you bear that in mind, regardless of what he said in Addis Ababa, the proof is there. Every person who lost primaries was removed, right? And then he replaced them with people who have primaries coming up. So I'm sorry, he's proved it. This was not for the people of Ghana. So if you bear that in mind, then some of these things make sense. Maybe Asenso Boachi needed to go to Rhodes because, he needed to be there. In these last few months, it's a good place to be. So who replaces him? Well, I mean, we also need to elevate this other one who is at, information. So let's maybe move the information minister there. Not necessarily because of some pre-existing expertise. What expertise? What expertise? What is Asenso Boachi's expertise in roads? Andrew Ejapaba is a great guy. I like him very much. But what's his expertise in tourism? So these moves are not based on expertise. They are not.
Sad. Yet again. Any comments? I want us to move on to our next one.
Yes. So basically on that, yes, I think even in Parliament, you realize that those members of Parliament whose seats were a bit shaky had to be elevated. And I remember saying on air that, for instance, if John DeMello had any chance of clinching the Iowa West Wogan seat, it's just been made difficult with the elevation of Lydia Al-Hassan to no mean a ministry than sanitation. There's a lot of money there. You know that, right? There's a lot of money
Absolutely.
at the sanitation ministry. And the players in the sector tend to support their sector ministers whenever they have elections to prosecute. And so that money will come.
Was Lydia Al-Hassan a leader in Parliament?
Deputy whip.
Yeah.
Deputy majority whip.
This is the woman who inherited her constituency from her late husband.
Bloody widow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfair.
Yeah, very. But we spoke about it. That's why I make reference to it.
This is the woman who inherited a constituency.
Right.
Until her husband died, she was not a politician.
No, she wasn't.
But she's one of Parliament's leadership, majority leaders.
Majority leaders, yes.
And now is a minister.
Now she's a minister.
But he did it for us. Akufo-Addo did this for us.
Very much so. So your sanitation matters will be addressed quickly. So Ophelia Hayford, also, of course, you can't say bloody widow. The husband.
We disagreed with that reference. That's why I made reference to.
No, of course I understand. No, what I mean, but we cannot say that because in her case, again, her husband died. No, in fact,
you mean
Ophelia Hayford,
yes.
the Fantiman MP.
Yes. Yes.
And she's been elevated.
Yes.
She's going to the Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry. Her seat was under threat. So with this elevation, her arms have been strengthened. Right.
Proper shock absorbers have been installed.
Most definitely.
I
Most
think
definitely.
we realize we're talking about taxes here.
Absolutely.
We're talking about state resources here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So basically that, and I'm sure that's why the president meant he did a reshuffle for you and I. Yes. So back to the manifesto committee. I think what I want the politicians to pay attention
Sorry,
more
Pedro.
to should be a long-term a long-term development plan. A long-term development plan from which all the political parties, when I say I mean two, well, let's take it.
I'm loving the sarcasm. I'm loving it.
For the longest time, that's exactly what we will be served with.
Right.
To pick their policies and their programs from this long-term development plan.
Right.
We attempted doing a 40-year development plan. Has been jettisoned. We told we are now looking towards a 100-year one by the National Development Planning Commission. We had Ghana Beyond Aid. We were developing the charter, and then COVID came, and we realized that we needed aid. So it's now being pushed to the back burner as well. I'm not sure President Akufo-Addo will ever mention Ghana Beyond Aid again before he has it. For that we are sure of. For that we are sure of. And so it's up to the new administration, whichever one it is, to also push towards that, because there's something that we ought to do in that regard. So manifestos, they are short terms. Usually they actually develop the manifestos with 8-year mandates in their minds, even though they know that after 4 years they'll have to come to us. So when they come to us, they tell us that they've not been able to implement whatever they set out to implement. So hopefully the Cape Coast Airport will find expression in a new manifesto. Hopefully. Or the people of Cape Coast, I'm sure, are expecting an airport. We told that feasibility study has been done, and then they realized that because there's one already in the western region, it's difficult to put another one in the central region.
We realize that now.
Yeah, and the politicians are allowed to. Yeah.
Say things.
Yeah, and later, upon hindsight, evaluate and
Right.
reevaluate and see those things are not feasible.
I think we need a translator. Next time when I bring you, I'll bring a translator.
Yes, but so after manifestos,
Right.
they are good. They are supposed to at least entice you and I.
Charlie.
But I think this time around, Ghanaians are quite discerning. We've been talking about this for a while, but I think I was in Asenov. And if ever there will be a voter or a group of voters who I would describe as discerning, it will be the voters of Asenov. I was there. I witnessed everything that happened. But they returned a verdict that they felt was good for them. If the generality of the voting population will adopt this, I'm sure the effect of inducement will only materialize in the stronghold of the political parties, because you need that as an encouragement. They'll vote for you anyway, so give them something to come and vote for you. But with the swing and the cosmopolitan areas, they realize that when you give them the money, you piss them off the more, and they vote against you. So we're getting there. We might get there. No, probably not in our lifetime.
Hopefully.
Yeah, no, it might not be in our lifetime, but we'll get there.
But do we see the levels of deception in our politics? So on a certain level, it's the promises we make with our mouth.
Yeah.
Because those are normally not in our manifestos.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's the deception on those levels.
Yes.
Then when you come to another level, then it's the manifesto. That's where the deception is.
Yes.
You know. So at every level, if you're engaging with politics in terms of your ears, there's what's crafted for you.
Yes.
If you're engaging with politics in terms of the paper,
Yeah.
there's what's crafted for you.
Yeah.
So at every level, you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we've done with, parliamentary elections, where potential MPs will come and tell constituents that vote for me and I'll construct your road for you.
Yeah.
It's not his job. But because he made that promise, once he comes into office, he has to direct his efforts into something that's not his job. And if he doesn't do it, he's considered a liar.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is, if he had come to say, vote for me and in parliament, I'll vote your way when it comes to issues of, LGBTQ. I'll vote your way.
I'll remind them that human rights are real.
Yeah, that's another matter for another day. Vote for me, and I will represent you when it comes to sanitary pads. Yeah. If they had said these things, even though that's what they are required to do, no voter would have been swayed by that. Yeah. So we have this self-perpetuating system of politics that forces leaders or potential leaders to lie to us. Yeah. We want lies. We don't want the truth. The truth is just not sexy enough. You have to lie to us. That's why manifestos have become policy documents. Anywhere else, your manifesto is something that was published 20 years ago. Someone can go and Google it and see that this party, they believe in this property owning democracy, or they believe in socialist interventions, or that's your manifesto. Rather, when you come into office, you see, so policies are never promises. Policies are actions. So when you come into office, you decide, okay, look, I want every child to have a laptop. That's a policy. You didn't promise it to. But while you are in office, you've looked at your resources and you decided, this is how I want to execute education at, say, primary level. So then you announce it. From next week, every child will have a laptop. So it's not a promise that you made that you are now coming to fulfill. No, policy should never be promise. It should be action. That's your work. That's the work you are doing while you are in office. Every day, coming up with policies. It's not a bunch of things you promised when you were not yet in charge, when you were not yet in control of resources. And then when you were made in control of resources, now you have to somehow let reality bend to your fantasy. No. So we've done it the wrong way around. But this is what we want. This is what we want. We want leaders to mount podiums and lie to us.
Let's talk about more leaders. Let's talk about more leaders. I'm steering us towards this issue of the running mates, for both political parties. We still don't know who our running mates are. Yeah. It's 10 months to December 7th. Yeah. By now, shouldn't we know?
We ought to. We should have. But both parties are adopting wait-and-see strategies.
Officially.
Yes.
Let me rephrase.
Yes, officially.
And I know we are going to get into trouble in a minute.
Yes, wait, yes, I know that.
Officially. Officially.
Yes.
Let's put that in capital letters. Yes. Officially. Because unofficially, I think we know.
Yes. Okay, so I think, once again, two individuals have headaches. But Dr. Bawumia's headache is much stronger than that of Mahama. Because Mahama has something you can call default setting, and he can fall on it. Bawumia doesn't have that. Now, Bawumia's work has been made extra difficult because he's been boxed into one region, like a pigeonhole. He's been boxed in there. That don't think outside that hole. Whatever thinking you are doing, do, but it must be within that small hole, and that's the Ashanti region. So his options are limited to one region. And that's because the party, as we are often told, has got its umbilical cord cut and buried in the region. So Bawumia coming from the northern part of the country, his running mate should be from the southern part of the country. When he gets to south, he should limit himself to one region, Ashanti region. And that's where the problem comes in. The intense lobbying. See, if Dr. Bawumia had known and he was firm in his mind who his running mate is supposed to be, when he met the National Council of Elders, he would have just given them the name, and that was it. That would have stopped virtually everything by now. So now he has his campaign team, he has outdoored his manifesto team, then he will have had his running mate, and be it Napo, Educhum, John Kuma, Professor Puku Nina, they would have all rested by now. But unfortunately, he could not definitely pick one. So there's the Napo team, Dr. Matupoku Prempeh, vociferously campaigning and trying to persuade everybody who needs to be persuaded to ensure that he's the choice, he's the option, only option. Then you have the Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, the education minister, whose team is equally doing the work And the argument is a simple one. The vice president should not choose anybody who overshadow him. The vice president should not choose a hothead. The vice president, yes, that's it. And then there is the religious card that is equally being played. And I remember the heavy weight that went on Professor Opoku Unyina because of a message he put out on social media. And he got a taste of how it feels like to leave the castle free into the political arena. In less than a few hours, he had returned to clarify. Yes, because he had been treated as a politician, right? And so, if, for instance, Professor Opoku Unyina had said yes and agreed, and his church, which will have been tagged forever, because if Professor Opoku Unyina agrees to be Bawumia's running mate, in the political space that we find ourselves in, his church, the Pentecost Church, will have been associated with NPP for the rest of our lives, until probably another person from the church who has risen to be chairman of the church joins another political party to serve as a running mate or lead as a presidential candidate. Then we'll change it. So the difficulty is there, but you can understand why his name will come up, or anybody in leadership of the Pentecost Church will come up. They command over 4 million members, we are told. And if the church can persuade even 3 million of that to vote one way, that is success to the politician. So that one has come up. And then there is that group, and I'm told that group goes all the way to the vice president's office, who thinks Napo is fighting too much, Educhum is fighting too much. How about we look to John Kuma, who is more or less like a compromised option? And so he's also getting his people. I'm sure this morning you saw the stories in the dailies. Yes, they are all doing their work. It makes the work of the vice president and then the flag bearer quite difficult. They are the Bono people who also think, no, you see, there's no difference between Bono and Ashanti region. The Ashantis are fighting. So look elsewhere. So come to Bono, still closer to Ashanti. You heard what Professor Mark Okwe said a few days ago. He had to clarify because there was a storm of fire that went on him, the former Speaker of Parliament. He said, you can look to Ghana because the party has not paid close attention to that region. And that's because the vice president failed to name the running mate. If this had been done, Professor Okwe would not have preferred this opinion, right? So the work is more difficult now. We spoke to Dr. Amakumba, who said, why is the vice president even limiting himself to the region? He should take his eyes off the Ashanti region and look into the country in general and find somebody who will better the ticket, who can help him break the 8. He's the first person in Ashanti region I've heard say this. I've interviewed Joe Wise on this. He says, common sense tells everybody that politically, you have to pick the running mate from the Ashanti region because you need to galvanize the base there. That's your World Bank.
The World Bank.
Exactly. So, what Dr. Bawumia is difficult, but in the end, he will have to choose one. Let me talk about that of the NDC.
No. Let's finish it and then we'll come back.
So that's my take on Dr. Bawumia.
And then we'll come to the NDC.
Yes. All right. Well, one thing that these two front-running candidates have in common, that's Bawumia and Mahama. One thing they have in common is that they are both very self-aware, but excessively so. So it makes them overthinkers. You can see this reflected in many of their decisions. We're talking about the MPP at the moment, so let me stick with Dr. Bawumia. They are missing the obvious. CDD did an extensive survey, that Afrobarometer thing, to determine what people consider in casting their votes. Ethnicity was somewhere. It wasn't even in the top 5. It doesn't matter to the voter as much as they think. You see, they make it about ethnicity for their benefit, to consolidate their own fiefdoms and their own centers of power. But the voters, they've already decided, the Ashanti region invariably votes for the MPP. Do you think that if Dr. Bawumia picks a running mate from Cape Coast, for example, the Asante region will not vote for MPP?
We'll suddenly vote NDC.
Seriously. So you see, instead of trying to please those who are already pleased, you should start, look, these two parties will always split the electorate pretty much down the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Always. So the scramble will always be for two things. One, can I get my people to come out and vote? And two, can I convince those who didn't adopt our party at puberty to vote for us this time? Right? The swing voters and the turnout. That's it. These are the two things that determine the winner in any election. You already have your people. You are going to waste a decision as critical as running mate on pleasing them. They are already your people. It shouldn't look, they will vote for you. All you have to do is make sure they turn up. Make sure they turn up. They are not going to vote for your opponent. So why? Why have all these Asante men queued to be chosen? What advantage are they bringing to the ticket? Because being Asante is not an advantage.
I hope not. I hope not.
No, I mean, it's quite simple.
Right.
Being an Asante, it's not because the Asantes will predominantly vote for you anyway. Right? So find something else.
It's the else I'm interested in. What do
What
you
should it
think that you know,
Alright.
he should be looking at? What are the qualities he should be looking at in choosing who?
Right now, the ticket has serious disadvantages. This idea that it is a continuation of what people are unhappy with. That is his biggest challenge. If he can pick a running mate that somehow demonstrates a departure, it would help him. That's why his personal preference, as far as we can pick up, is for somebody who is not a politician. Unfortunately, convincing that person might be harder than he thought, because they showed him something small.
Small. Small.
You know, but that was his preference. So you can see that, yes, he's overthinking, but his eye is on the ball. He understands that, look, I need to fix my disadvantages with my running mate. But the party doesn't seem to care. The party seems to think it's ours. We've selected a northern flag bearer. As for running mate, it must still be ours. I don't get the logic of that. I don't get it. It gives you no advantage, none. Strategically, you win nothing on the board. But they are hell bent on it and are spending it. Look at, do you know how much money these potential running mates are spending just to be considered? Whenever we talk about vote buying and look, a lot of it is not the candidates. It's these wannabe running mates who are doing the spending on these delegates, just so that they'll be considered, right? And for me, they are completely misguided. They are overthinking the situation. They are pressing an advantage that they already have. They are wasting an opportunity to give themselves a little bit more of a chance against an opponent who thinks they can walk the ball into the goalpost this year. They are not putting their best foot forward.
Right.
And they can't afford not to do that.
Right. I want us to come to the NDC now. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. So, I mean, two things. Of course, we know the obvious, Professor Jane Anopo-Kwajiman, the obvious choice, right? She went the first time. She should go again. Absolutely. My bias is there for everybody to see. I do not try to hide it. No, but the point is that so this conversation is pretty simple, right?
It is.
Is it an obvious choice?
Okay, so I'm not sure it's that obvious for the political watchers, because there are many schools of thought. So there are many who argue that just as the former President Mahama did something unthinkable, because there was a name out there before the 2020 elections that go with this man, and he actually shocked no meaner person than Rawlings with his choice of Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. Even Rawlings was shocked. So that should tell you something. Rawlings never gets shocked. He is a shocker, but he was shocked. Yes, like that. You see, so that was unconventional. So the many are saying, okay, how about you do that again? By dropping Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman and going for another person who can better enhance the ticket. That one is there, and the names have come. Now, let me tell you the challenge with that. And this is a practical challenge with that. The former president, as far as we know, and as far as the Constitution is aware, will do one term. He will do one term. That's 4 years. Now, must he pick somebody who will automatically become an anointed successor after he exits? That's what many party people want him to do. If he does that, the danger is this. He will be president, but from day one, he will be a tag that President Akufo-Addo is trying not to accept, a lame duck president, because the power dynamics will shift. Everybody will be worshipping the future president, and that will be the vice president. And I'm talking about within the party, because they know that after Mahama says it, the running mate is the anointed successor for the party. So if you are looking for the long term, for into the future, then that's the person you must pay attention to. It's a governance challenge that he will get himself into. That point has been made. Now, if that's the case, then why not return with the woman and live with her? And
why
so
the woman can't be president? I mean, what are we saying?
Okay, so
what are we saying? I mean, what are we saying?
No, okay, so we didn't say.
We didn't even have time for this. I'm ready to back to you.
We didn't say why don't you return with a woman. I said why didn't you return with dead woman? Meaning that many people are aware that Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman is not seeking to replace Mahama after Mahama is done with.
We don't know that.
Many people within her circles have said so. So if it's not true, she can tell us. But people can change their mind. Politically, people can change their mind. But that is the narrative that is being pushed.
She hasn't said that anywhere.
Okay, you are closer.
No, I mean,
so maybe you are closer.
Say this.
You are closer.
Let's stick to the facts. Forget who's closer and who's not. Have we heard her say this?
Okay, so that's the narrative.
Officially, I mean, forget officially, ever.
Okay, so if we're talking officially, then officially she's not even been pronounced as Mohammed's running mate. But what you can infer is that when the assignment, Professor Jenana is deployed in the name of the party, in the name of the former president, to attend party functions and even campaign functions. There was one story that was forwarded of Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman doing something on behalf of the former First Lady, Lordina Mahama. Recently, meeting market women in Makola and making some donations. That's the point. So many people are reading meanings into this. The point I'm making is that many people, and I believe seem to be true, that if the former president anoints a running mate as a successor, the problems will be much more for him. And getting a peace of mind to govern will be a challenge. That one is there. So if the narrative that Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman is not seeking to replace Mahama after he exits, if he wins, and that the two of them should go, when they are on the seat in the process, they should groom new set of people, and the party is capable of doing that, for them to take over. It's there.
We'll come back to this conversation.
Because finally, if Jenana is dropped, your group, and I'm talking about the gender activist.
Yes.
And it's not like for like. So Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman is dropped, and another woman is picked, then that one is satisfactory. But a man is picked, they will say, when you stood no chance at all of winning in 2020, you came for a woman. Now that if we are to go back to 92 and look at the cyclical changes of our political landscape, you have a better chance of winning. You want to date a woman and go for another man? That's the evidence is out there.
We'll come back to this conversation. We will come back to this conversation.
Yeah, okay, look.
Because of time.
Let me just be quick. The first thing I'll say is that I think the best aspect of the choice of Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman for the 2020 election was the fact that she was a woman. I think that was the strongest thing. And no matter what, I would recommend that John Mahama pick a woman as his running mate in 2024. Not just to satisfy gender activists, but just because it makes good sense. It's about time. We are there in our country's history. We need to have a woman at that level. Now, this is the thing. Whomever he picks will be seen by some as the successor. Why wouldn't Jane be the successor? Honestly, if the people who follow Jane, Professor Nana Jane, I shouldn't really call her Jane, she smack me for
and rightly so.
Yes. She's known me since I was a child, so I better behave. The people who follow Prof. Jane, if they thought that she intended to just serve one term and leave, they wouldn't follow her. They wouldn't. So if that narrative exists, she needs to get rid of it. Whoever is the running mate will be seen by some as the successor. It's unavoidable. The question is Prof. Nana Jane the best foot forward for the NDC? And I mean, I think I've voiced my views on this. And again, this is someone who has known me since I was a child. So if anybody has a right to be biased here, it's me. I was so excited when she was picked as, running mate the first time. But the results show that she didn't deliver. That's just the fact. She didn't deliver. So if I was in charge of choosing the ticket, I wouldn't pick the same person, because I think there are better options, better female options in your party. I would pick someone who's dynamic and fresh, who can absolutely add to the ticket, because this is not going to be a walk in the park. I think the NDC really believes they are going to dribble the ball into the goal. If that's what they are thinking, then they are allowing themselves to be shocked. I mean, what an upset that would be, that this government has created such disdain for what it has done so far, and then the opposition allows them to win and break the 8. So they better be putting their best foot forward. And I am saying, Prof. Jane, fantastic person as she is, I still ask whether she's the best foot forward.
We've run out of time.
How will you not tell me you run out of time?
We don't have time. we don't have time. There's no more time for it. Listen, I don't have the time. We don't have time. But I think it's a conversation that we can come back to.
Sure.
It's a conversation that it's a big conversation. Finally, before we could, sorry that I catch you that way. Do you think that, should there be somehow, should we cast in stone when running mates should be selected? Because at this point, it's possible that we could get to a month to go, and so if it's at the sole discretion of one person, but shouldn't we know? Are we not invested that much? Shouldn't we know beforehand? Shouldn't we have maybe a year, 2 years? Shouldn't there be some time within which we can, some wiggle room?
They are just.
We don't have time.
Yeah, they are just.
Before Kojo gets married, we don't have time.
They are just meat. We are just meat. They are supposed to be meat, right?
No, it's a ticket.
Not the meat.
It's a ticket.
No, they are just supposed to be meat. Okay, what's the vice president? Co-drivers.
I see.
You see, they are not supposed to be meat. So it's the drivers that will determine when those mates are named. I think we shouldn't tie the hands of the flag bearers. We should leave that to them. We told that John Mahama would name his next month, which is March, right? I think, like I said, the challenge had always been, okay, so if John Mahama names a woman,
let's not go into the discussion.
To the same question, I will simply say that it is a chess piece. All right, who I choose as my running mate is a chess piece that can either give me an advantage or a disadvantage in the game. I should be allowed to determine when I want to play it.
Right. Thank you.
You're most
Thank you. Such a pleasure. Ibrahim Al-Hassan, Deputy Editor, EIB Networks. Such a pleasure. Great guy. D. Kojo Yankson, Broadcast Journalist, Joy from My Kojo Yankson. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I think we should continue this conversation. There's so much more to talk about. And I want to record that I disagree with both of you, on this issue.
What else?
I completely disagree. Thank you for watching. This has been our show. We hope that, as always, we tried our best to analyze the issue as best as we could. We hope you are following the issues as critically as you should. You should, because this is about you, this is about me, this is about our country. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.